Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to one of my favorite parts of any program. I think a lot of you out there in professional development, certification, events, etc., can understand that. It's kind of the wrap up of one cycle and moving into a new cycle. So today we're going to do the annual wrap up for our HighRoad U 2016-2017 program. And I'm your host, I guess, for the day. And I'm Suzanne Carowin, our Chief Marketing Officer here at HighRoad. So what we're going to do a little bit is a look back over the HighRoad U programs to kind of give you a quick bird's eye view of all that we've covered, all the materials that are out there. I'll refresh your memory about where to find them. So if you see a particular topic now, you say, oh, I wish I had seen that. You can easily go back and access those resources. And then what we're going to do is a little bit of a dive into some of the major topics covered that were the newest, that were kind of new material to many people. So this is like a cram session, if you will. We'll get some cram session material in there about some of the topics that we covered. And then we're going to ask you for feedback because we're in process of planning the 2017-2018, if you will, school year for HighRoad U. And as everyone knows, our topics are based on feedback. So it's always good for us to produce content that you're interested in. So without further ado, let's kind of get going. So again, just to sum it up, HighRoad U is, the U is for us to be, it's a little bit, couple reasons to use the U. Like, why do we use that? Is it just for university? Well, that's the easy answer. But it's also used as an indicator for us to remember that we're in a user-centric world now, and that everything that we're doing as marketers, as communicators, as event managers, event producers, event creators, publications people, membership people, component relations, affiliate relations. What did I miss in there? Something, certifications, professional development, any sort of education, research, you name it. It is all about designing for user-centric programming, meaning that no longer is the brand or the institution, your association or your nonprofit or your society, etc., no longer is that at the middle of what we're trying to do. Instead, we're now all in design mode, user experience design mode, to try to understand what is it that we need to do to fit into the worldview, the consideration set, the possibility of working with this human on the other side of the digital screen. As we now know, most shopping is done online first. Certainly 70% of all decisions are made on a new product or purchase or program without your involvement as the brand. So people are using the internet, they're using all of their mobile apps, they're using word of mouth to really narrow down the consideration set as to whom should they focus their attention. And so the U there is really designed to help us to force ourselves to constantly remember it's not about us as the brand, it's about the user. So whether that user is a new prospect for membership, whether they're a registrant, whether they're a participant, whether you consider them a customer, what matters is understanding them in the most depth possible and then designing around a program that is going to benefit the brand. So that's kind of a huge paradigm shift that has happened, and it's part of the crux of what's called digital transformation that's been happening in our association, nonprofit, society, industry world, certainly within the last year. It's been gradually gaining steam and momentum, but we really have passed a tipping point. If you listen to me regularly, I think February 22nd of this year was a tipping point when we went into moving from early adopters of digital transformation, kind of digital marketing strategy in the association world, to really moving to the mass middle, right? Really gaining a huge amount of speed here. So what we do at HighRoad is, as part of our thought leadership and giving back to our industry, we try to plug a hole that we've seen in terms of education and thought leadership and things like that by being able to put together a set of programs that we're blessed that HighRoad's founders, David Caruso and Ron McGrath, are happy to give back and to fund and to provide the resources for us to be able to put these programs together and give back to our association industry. All of the HighRoad U programs are free. We have done this now year over year, so we have quite a content library And it's there so that we can, again, do everything we can to help move the market. We know that there's organizations of all shapes and sizes. Everyone has all shapes and sizes of budgets, skill sets on staff, et cetera. But this is so pivotal to, we think, the not just being able for associations to grow and evolve into kind of this next era of interaction with membership and et cetera, but we think that it's close to, if we don't get out there and spread the word about new methodologies and tools and how things are, how kind of modern commerce is now happening, that our associations are truly in jeopardy. So we're past kind of the point where I think everybody can just be in stasis and we can say, oh, you know, we haven't seen any major seismic shifts in demographics or in drop-off rates, or et cetera, because of population changes. That past, we would say that that point is past. And we've certainly seen in the last year that our clients and the feedback that we get from the market is that this is coming at an accelerated rate, that this topic is heating up about something has to change. We have to do something different. We can no longer continue to do the same things we've been doing for the last, sometimes usually 10 to 15 years, if not 20 years. So within that, HighRoad U tends to try to put together materials to help further this conversation, give organizations new ways of, new ideas, new ways of thinking, et cetera, and to provide both the theory as well as the practical application. So the creators of the topics and the theoretical pieces have formal training and formal educational backgrounds, and we're all subject matter experts on our respective parts. And so we want to make sure that, you know, again, this is hardcore education, and no part of this should be sales pitchy, right? This is that's one of the things we feel like associations have not always received. We want to have an industry that's very healthy, where quote unquote vendors like HighRoad Solution is seen as a thought leader partner, and that everything is not in opposition to one another, right? So a good, healthy industry has vendors who are contributing back to the industry by providing education and thought leadership and kind of what's coming, what's new, how you should interpret it, right? And then you've got the associations on that side saying, okay, how can this fit into what we need to do? And we're trying to make sure that we are doing our best to create a healthy industry that is not one side, it's not a zero-sum game. So as part of that, our program's available as how we run them, and we will continue to do so in the coming year. We have, every month, we have topic-based webinars. We have what we call a toolkit of the month, which is literally an interactive, typically Excel spreadsheet, to help you actually do some of the calculations, understand, okay, look, I don't have to start from scratch. There's a framework already out there. Wouldn't it make more sense to be able to leverage what marketing leaders out in the entire world already do? Okay. We have a series called Inbound Lunch Bunch, which in particular focuses on the inbound methodology, which is being able to grow through digital using inbound techniques, usually centered around marketing automation, a lot of content marketing. We have an entire series that we do around industry research and analysis. So we've just released in May our 4th year of our State of Digital Marketing and Associations report, along with some analysis and commentary. We actually partner with Demand Metric, and we have their chief analyst who's on staff as a PhD marketer at a university out west, and he actually is the one who provides us each month or several months out of the year deep dive analysis on particular topics. So we want to help bridge the gap, and they're doing industry research on marketing as a whole across the entire world. So they're helping, but mostly, of course, there's very few organizations that are studying at all the association industry. So what we want to do is bridge the gap and be able to leverage a lot of their for-profit research that they're doing and analysis, and be able to bring that and bridge it into the association world and say, is this relevant for us? But if nothing else, you know what else is going out in the world. And lastly, we have ebooks and kind of other materials to help as well. So in just getting going, I've given you 2 slides that give you just a synopsis. It's kind of like a nice study guide about all of the different pieces that we've done month over month. So I'll give you this for reference, but you can see that for each month, we've tried to focus on a particular topic. And during the webinar portion that we did, it's really an overview of the topic, get to know it, understand it, what are some of the considerations, et cetera. And then we follow it with Inbound Lunch Punch, which is typically the same topic, but now in an application format of it. So what are the case studies? How do you do it? So it's one thing to know theory, it's another thing to apply. One of the things that we've heard over and over from our clients is that there's been such a rush to move to clicking and doing and tactical. Everybody feels like they're too tactical and they're right into the weeds, but no one seems to understand the theory. The theory got skipped over. So there was a real push for us, because we do have the caliber of staff that we do, to spend the time in educating on the theory. So in many ways, you're getting like a quick MBA level discussion on a lot of these topics. And you can kind of fast track and ramp up very quickly on the topic at a pretty sophisticated clip. So sometimes it's not the very beginning of it. We do get that feedback. We're typically working with organizations that are serious about digital transformation, and they're not, new to email or some of these things. They want to get on to the next level. They're into the evolution piece. So I'll just kind of put that caveat on there. And I've listed out also the toolkits as well as the analyst briefs that we have that are all as well recording. So you can listen to them as kind of podcasts, or you can watch the webinar, et cetera. And all the materials are available. Okay. So all of the materials, including the slides, the recording, et cetera, the toolkits, they're all online through at HighRoadU.com. Okay. So what did we actually cover? So in kind of moving into that, what I did is I went back over the year, and you can see how much material is there. That's that's a library's full, and that's just this past year. We have previous years. And many of them just build on each other, and we, as years go on, we have nuanced pieces that go into a little bit more depth. There's certainly something that we will cover probably over and over again, like you would get in any sort of good educational system, because as it says, you have to hear things at least 8 times for it to really stick. So what are the major topics? If I had to look over the entire year and pull out some of the really salient learning nuggets, what are the major topics that if I had to do a cram session, we're studying for a final exam, what are some of the areas that we would really pick out to say, these are the major takeaways? So this is kind of like your cliff notes of the year. So from a major topics areas covered, one of the big things that's happening right now is that the majority of associations and societies out there have a traditional, what we call the big 3. You've got your association management system, you've got your content management system, and you've got an email marketing platform. Those are found in almost every organization in some size, shape, or format. Those are what we consider the big 3. They typically are the top line items in your budget. They typically are also the top line items that take the most staff time of your budget. And they're typically the ones that everybody is the most displeased with. They want more, and it goes along the lines of this. They don't get the reporting they want. They want more insight, and they want it to be easier to use. Okay? So one of the pieces that is coming, because digital transformation, what's happening is that if it's becoming user-centric, the organization needs more data in order to understand and predict, and understand, if I spend this amount of money, how much will I get in return in revenue? We have traditionally, in our association industry, been using email as the lifeline to sell. We never want to say that, but that's what we've been using email for. Email has been used for both selling products, programs, events, certifications, professional development, as well as communication, sending out content, like true newsletter, industry, advocacy information, et cetera. And what we're seeing is we're at a point in the industry where we're starting to split those two pieces apart. And really, you can look at it through the lens of email marketing, but it's bigger than that. We're finally starting to see the split between communications as a discipline and marketing as a discipline. And we're starting to see the emergence of product marketing really come into its own and split off from communications, and understand that we have been sending both product marketing, as in I'm trying to drive revenue on a particular product line, trying to drive that, as well as communication. We've been shoving both of those through the channel of email marketing, typically for the last 20 years, right? And we haven't been thinking about it in a sophisticated way that we're distinguishing the two and understanding that communications things based in digital are vastly different than being able to sell well in digital, okay? And so that understanding is one of those critical, fundamental pieces we need to understand that we've hopefully helped to elucidate over the last year in HighRoad U. I come back to looking at email marketing versus marketing automation, because nothing helps to tell that story better than email marketing. And there's such confusion in the market over these things, because you've got vendors that have traditionally been there and they're saying, look, we have an email marketing platform, and then now they're all marketing automation, right? Then you also have the entire marketing automation set of vendors who've traditionally been in the for-profit world now starting to infiltrate into the association world. That's causing confusion, as well as you've got content management systems, learning management systems, other platforms all saying we do marketing automation. So marketing automation, one of the big take-home messages from this year is marketing automation, you just need to know, it's like the gold rush back in the day. It's the Wild West at the moment. And so now you're looking at a market, association market, who traditionally this is mostly new. These ideas, these techniques, these methodologies is mostly new, and you've got the Wild West, and you've got a lot of organizations out there trying to sell it to you constantly and get you to believe that they have the best, stream for panning gold, right? It's a gold rush. That's the best way I can say that. It's a gold rush. What we're concerned with at HighRoad is that we have a certain amount of stewardship that we want to make sure that we have, and that's part of, I think, our mission that we have at HighRoad. Our name is HighRoad. It's part of our identity, and it's one of the things that we really hold dear is that we have a certain stewardship. So we try to really make sure. Now, look, be clear. We sell this stuff too. We want to work with you. We want to implement it, okay? But we also want to make sure that it's the right fit for the client. That's first and foremost, and that we want to make sure if you don't choose us, that's fine. There's always, look, there's enough sun in the world for all of us, but what we want to make sure is that we have knowledgeable buyers in the market. That's really important, that we have the education out there. So we have some baseline set of knowledge so that the people that are making purchase decisions, the people that are now saying, I'm in charge of doing digital marketing, the people that are saying, I'm in charge of, I've got P&L responsibility for membership, that they have the tools and techniques and education level they need to make informed decisions. Because otherwise, it really is like shooting fish in a barrel. It is easy pickings because you will get hoodwinked, right? There's all sorts of information. It's very confusing. And really, it's true. There's a lot of overlap now in software technology. The difference is the distinctions between platforms of who does what. It's not black and white like it used to be with email marketing, content management, right, and your association management system. It doesn't quite work that way anymore. So it's a more sophisticated buy. As a corollary, I'd say one of the things we've certainly seen at HighRoad over the last year is more and more organizations coming to us asking us to help lead them through that process, asking us to help them do vendor selection, help to understand the nuances, which platform really is the right platform for them, instead of going on things like, and if you don't have that, you're going on things like price only, right? And we're finding out that you're not looking at your staff. Can you really do this? Or, you get talked into like, just keep it simple, stupid kind of thing. And like, let's do the run, the crawl, walk, run. And what happens in many cases, like we said, the market is tick-tock ticking. And if you're waiting too long and you're only making incremental steps, that can often be quite dangerous to the organization and for revenue generating because you're missing your window. We have many organizations working right now. They have for-profit companies coming directly after their membership, and they have all the tools and techniques and methodology and the skill set and the know-how to come after your membership, and they're not waiting. They're looking at you, and if you can't move at that speed, right? So we have a lot of organizations asking to partner with us to help amplify that so they can get the same for-profit kind of power, if you will, to be able to hit their competitor head-to-head. So just some things to think about. So back to one of the major concepts then, what's really the difference between email marketing and marketing automation? So email marketing at the end of the day is human powered, right? This is about me creating an email and doing some sort of production and then hitting the send button and having one type, one version, or maybe there's a small, dynamic content between two different members within the email, but fundamentally it's one email sending to many, okay? This is the world we know. It's about, we call it blast email, we call it all sorts of names like that. We're focused on open and click-through rates. It's true push market. It's retention driven in many cases, or like we're doing things illegally like buying lists and pushing out email. But at the end of the day, it's manual, it's human powered, right? And it's a rudimentary, at this point, we have to call it what it is. It's a rudimentary approach to being able to, both do communications on one side as well as to sell and create revenue on the other side. Okay, so that's our traditional kind of piece, and organizations are evolving quite quickly to marketing automation. There's a category in between called email automation that that's worth mentioning. And email automation is an important step because what that's saying is, let's get rid of the rigmarole and whatever we cannot do manually, let's do it, right? So if we can send out automatic renewals, if we can send out, top of the month, all the different birthdays and anniversaries, and we can send out welcome new member, and at the top of each month, we send them out an email, let's do it. Those things we would say those are great. We should absolutely do them. They're still kind of at the, like if email marketing that's all created by hand and pushed is elementary school, we would consider the email automation piece of the things I just said, maybe middle school, okay? As we get into marketing automation and we move into high school and college, marketing automation fundamentally is talking about humans now changing their role with the system. And now we're talking at a very abstract level, but it's worth noting because there's something called the IoT, the Internet of Things. That's a whole movement, if you haven't heard about it, that's talking about how much the Internet is truly changing all of our everything. Internet of Things. So now we're talking about a human being moving from a process where they're writing, copying, pasting, putting into some sort of email platform software and hitting the send button. And we're talking now about, in marketing automation, about humans moving to a role in which they're designers. They're designing experiences. They're designing what metrics they want to look at. They're designing the campaign, and they're setting all that up ahead of time. And then they're letting the technology power it. They're not pushing the send button. They're not doing the content creation to the same extent as in email marketing. Marketing automation, when you get to that, so before we get into all the feature function, because that's where everybody jumps to, sometimes it helps to step back and say, theoretically, this is a fundamental shift. This is an evolution. So when you get to marketing automation, we're talking about drip marketing, conversion. You're looking at an individual's digital footprint. You're trying to do pull marketing or inbound marketing. And ultimately, the whole purpose of marketing automation is to understand the equation about how much I spent and how much revenue I've gotten in, okay? There is no marketing automation that's called, I'm doing a series of emails. That's not marketing automation. That's called email automation. Marketing automation has got to truly be marketing automation. It must have the component in there for sales funnels, for understanding budget, for understanding things like cost per lead. It's understanding my equation between how much I spend and how much I get back. And I'm using things like email, landing pages, blogs in order to do that. It's apples and oranges. My knuckles turn white every time someone tells me, what's the difference between marketing automation and email marketing? Like, aren't they the same? No. The pricing models aren't usually the same. That's another one. Email marketing is by cost per message, CPM. Marketing automation, real marketing automation is based on the number of contacts, right? So it's the number of contacts because we're trying to, in email marketing, we're really measuring the number of messages, opens and clicks within a message, right? It's exactly the same as direct mail. It's very similar. In marketing automation, so in email marketing, we're studying messages. In marketing automation, we're studying humans. We're studying human behavior. So that's a real takeaway topic point of the year to understand fundamentally it's apples and oranges. And so as you go and you spend more and more time in the marketing automation world, it becomes increasingly clear to you that this is a whole different animal. And some organizations get overwhelmed, and then what they do is they backtrack and they say, we're just going to stick with email marketing. Like I said, you can do that. It's certainly a safe route. However, you're in a competitive disadvantage now with the rest of the world of what people are trying to do. Okay, so the evolutionary piece is like, we got to move to marketing automation. And again, how do we do that? Okay, maybe we need extra help. We need education. We need HighRoad. We need a partner, whatever, to help us move forward and build that capacity. Okay, so a big fundamental point there. Okay, so some fundamentals of marketing automation, if we look at it, is looking at funnels. So we have to understand funnels all in our brain instead of now thinking, so most organizations start with this concept. Okay, here comes our annual meeting, and how are we going to quote unquote market it? And we start with, I'm going to send a series of 3 emails. Okay, right there, we're right in the middle of tactics. We are tactics 101. As we move to marketing automation, as you move to looking at conversions and thinking about conversions and looking at an integrated marketing campaign, trying to understand all the touch points that were indicative of that person making a product purchase. As we move to that, we move into understanding and needing to think at the abstract, needing to understand the concept of funnels. Okay, so funnels, I've got, this is my funnel that we've developed here at HighRoad to explain this concept. So this is a good takeaway, because so much of marketing automation is built on this concept. And it's usually the top half of the funnel. And you see, I've noted, if you're just listening, look up for a sec, because you're looking at the top half of the funnel is the new part for most of the association world about where marketing automation fits in. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about the bottom for a second. Most of us in the association world start, when we say, I'm going to send an email, we start with the skinny part of the funnel that starts with, they're already a customer, member, or donor. We already have them in our database. They're sitting in Aptify, they're sitting in Personify, and now we want to send out an email to them to drum up more registrants, etc. Okay, and then we want to be able to push down and open up the funnel and lead the customer, member, donor from that point down to being an evangelist, right? Being as how many people can we push down to get them past the kind of checkbook member and get them into real, true engagement? How much can we do that? This whole world, there is a play for automation. This is where email automation, hyper-personalization comes, communications. So most of this is doing great work with how can I leverage data I have to do a better job to do selling into my current base, right? So this is upsell, cross-sell, product marketing techniques. So that's what we pretty much, this is our traditional world of what we've been using email marketing really for. The top half, though, of marketing automation is commonly a new place for associations and nonprofits and societies, where they're going from, all of a sudden the question becomes, how do we sell? We need new people to sell to. Like, let's call it what it is. We need new people to sell to. We've got an annual meeting. We've got a whole certification program. We need to grow. And now we need to grow in 2017, and we need to figure out how we can do this. What are the channels we have? And then typically we don't have unlimited budgets. So we're asking, what's the cheapest way? How can I do this to get the most out of it, right? The most economical way to be able to do this so that I want to measure it. So I understand how to take people that have never known me, so top of the funnel, totally unknown, push them through a lead funnel to move them down to the point at which they convert to being a customer, member, or donor. This top half of the funnel tends to be the new part. This is where marketing automation plays. So if you go into a for-profit and you start going into any of the big email service providers out there, you start going out into the software world or go to like a for-profit digital marketing conference. The interesting thing is it's not uncommon at all. As a matter of fact, it's fairly typical that you would see that they have a marketing automation platform tied in with their customer relationship management, in our world, AMS system. They also have an email marketing system, okay, that's also tied into those things. They're all tied into the content management system, and they're doing different parts, okay? So that's an important piece to understand because they have different roles. What we have in the association market right now is everybody's saying you need to move from email marketing to marketing automation, and we're still trying to do everything on one platform, right? We are the biggest do-it-yourselfers and try to do everything in the cheapest way possible in the association world because we're always so constrained on budgets. But we need to understand that there are fundamental differences between these two platforms, okay? And that where these pieces fit in. And many organizations would do better by plugging in a marketing automation system today with almost no contacts in it and start doing lead generation, right? And keeping their email marketing system, not trying to do everything on one. Okay, sophisticated conversations, but understanding that, and we're going to come back to that when we talk about the MarTech stack. But I just want to mention that to you because they have different roles of what they're trying to do, and there's different depths of reporting in each of these. The purpose, again, of the marketing automation system is to be able to provide one platform that's collecting together all these content marketing kind of techniques to attract people and push them into the funnel and measure their progression from unknown to a customer. Okay, that's a big understanding of what is happening in marketing automation and why people are moving to it. But one of the things I just say there, I caution, I hear so many organizations say, well, this is a big, CapEx expenditure. We're going to have to budget for moving everything, every part of our infrastructure to a marketing automation platform we want to. And that's just not the right approach. You might want to get there, but it would probably be better to start a pilot program now with marketing automation and work on lead gen and try to, again, understand we've come back to a world, just to back it up, where we're separating out email marketing and marketing automation, okay? And there's endless conversations of how we talk about this all the time, okay? But that's a big take home. So fundamentally, marketing automation is funnels. I'm constantly trying to take a group of people. We're always talking about people here. Again, we're not talking about messages. We're talking about people, their experience with us across a different set of channel of communications, blogs, landing pages, email, digital advertising, direct mail, etc. And how can we kind of attract them and push them through a funnel to the point at which they buy, okay? That's really an important piece. So email marketing is part of marketing automation, but it's just one channel. And because we've had email marketing as just a lifeline for many of our organizations for so long, we've kind of overblown its importance, right? Like we get so detailed into email marketing, like we want to know why is this one person gone invalid? It's gone into a huge amount of depth because that's the only way we had to communicate, right? But in the world of marketing automation, it's just one channel to get in front of people. It's just one channel. In the balance of our depth of understanding actually shifts. Okay, so just giving you some of my for-profit experience, I've only seen the level of scrutiny of email marketing and the invalids and bounces and what's happening and opens and clicks. That level of scrutiny around an email marketing platform, aside from the association market, I've only seen it in other industries in which the only way you sell is email, like retail catalogs, some of those kinds of pieces, right? Where everything, or like all of your sales are going to come through clicking through things on email purchases. So it's very interesting because many other organizations, email is at the same level as digital advertising, as landing pages, etc. And what you find, you can see it in our State of Digital Marketing Associations report, you will see that email has all the budget and like digital advertising has nothing. And you would not see that. We look at that and we say, you have an unbalanced budget, right? Your budget is wrong. It's fundamentally off. You've got everything shifted into email and you have nothing, which is all, again, I can't email people unless I have their email address, which means that I have no budget for growth. How am I going to get in front of people that are unknown to me and pull them to me? Oh, I'm going to rely on free Twitter posts. That's one method you can do it, but all the effort, there's not enough effort and money being spent on this top half of the funnel. And that's one of the big things we've talked about during the year is what are these things you can do at the top part of the funnel to get people into that, go from the top of the funnel to the middle to the bottom. Okay, we spent a lot of time of the year talking about that. So just a refresher then, in understanding, here's a major concept that these are different information distribution channels, and that in the world of marketing automation, we're trying to measure them all. We're trying to understand from whence did this person come, How much money did I spend on each channel, and what did it get me? What did that person end up buying? I don't really care. I don't care is not the right word, but the level of importance, the weight of consideration of opens and click-throughs changes if I'm looking at everything at the aggregate, right? Because what I want to know is it a combination of email and social and a website visit that got that person to convert and become a customer, right? What I want to know is what's the sum total of all these things interacting together. Integrated marketing campaign, multiple channels, or what's called omni-channel, being used at one time to still interact with the same person. So again, instead of measuring the channel, which I want to know as well, I want to be able to come in and say, how did my email, opens, clicks, that doesn't change. How did my social do? How many people retweeted, interacted, etc. But I also want to look at it from, hold on a second, from this person that we're trying to communicate with, let's call him Bob, how many different ways did Bob see our message before Bob had to convert, before he converted to becoming a customer, right? Because again, I want to look at it from both sides now of the measurement equation. I want to understand what it took for Bob, how many times Bob interacted with us, right? How successful were we in front of getting in front of Bob, and what that looks like, as well as I want to know which channel got me the most number of Bobs, right? Which channel? Which one was it? If I spend more on LinkedIn, will I get more revenue? If I spend more on email, do I get more revenue, right? What combination, think of these as spices, what combination of spices, how do I mix and match them to get the best flavor of the overall meal? That's what marketing automation is trying to do. And I could do this all separately, and many organizations do. Most of you have a website, a microsite, a blog, you use multiple different channels in social media, you have webinars, you have events. All this stuff should be very, very familiar. But what you don't have is one platform that's going to allow you to measure it all together, okay? So another major concept in the last year is the idea of the buyer's journey. And the idea of the buyer's journey is kind of twofold because it brings in, well, I'd even go with, maybe we can 4 concepts in one slide. So the idea of the buyer's journey is that we want to set forward a progression of steps, and we want to understand what makes people buy. That's what we're trying to identify. What makes people buy, and subsequent to that, where do they fall off the journey, right? And what can we do to get them back on the path? So again, if you're looking at the screen, you're looking at this little person who's starting maybe from, again, we don't know them, they're anonymous, and we're looking at them, tracking them through their little footsteps here. This is their digital footprint, and we're trying to understand comprehensively at every little red dot, what did they do with us and how did they interact? And if we don't, and when ideally, we're looking at the ideal journey. The journey is the ideal version, where you went from somebody who doesn't know you at all to customer, right? That's conversion. And then we can start pushing down further into that engagement part. But we want to understand what's the combination of events and content points, et cetera, that this person interacted with us, and what steps did they take to move them from here to the customer. And this is like the A+ 100% journey. Now we're going to use this as our kind of template, and against all of the people in our funnel, as they're moving through, we're trying to understand, where do people fall off? Where did they go off the track? Like, where did they go off the path? And if they went off the path, what can we do to get them back on the path? So that's the idea of a user journey, the buyer's journey, to help us make sense of who's most likely to stay on the path. We use a couple different techniques. One is called personas. So instead of saying, look, we're going to treat all people and try to understand each individual at an individual level, we can't do that en masse, right? So we have to bucket them together. And what we're trying to do is identify who do we want? Okay, so we're moving from a point of like, we'll take anyone, to saying, no, there's a specific type of member or registrant or participant that really we want, that is our ideal customer. Let's create a persona, a fake story, a fake image that is a bundle of behaviors and characteristics that we can identify for. And as we're watching all these people fall through the funnel, we're understanding who those people that fall into that persona are. Because we know if we get those people, they have the highest probability of buying. Now we've moved from communications to sending email, we're flat into marketing. Marketing is a social science of probability. That's what it is, right? We're trying to understand what creates buying interactions, and what's the probability of that. The probability part of that is we start to crack the code on who's most likely to buy by being able to do lead scoring. So if you look here at all the green parts, we say +5, +5, +5, +10, we're looking at a total score. This is the concept of lead scoring. So for each kind of point on the map that they kind of get to on their buyer's journey, we're awarding points. The system is rewarding points. And so that we can walk in the morning and say, show me everybody who has a lead score of at least 5, 10, 15. How about 15? 15. Everybody who has a lead score of 15, they've done the first at least 3 interaction points correctly. We want to know, show me all those people, because that's who's most likely to buy. They're basically bubbling to the surface and saying, you know what, if I had to put my money, if I had to put a hypothesis together, that's the group that looks like they're following the path that we hypothesized is the right path. And we want to make sure of those people, they don't fall off the map. Of those kind of things, how many of them actually made it all the way through to the end goal, to the customer? And what does that look like? And then what can we do to get them back on that path? Okay, that's the conversation that organizations are now focused in on having, right? That's what marketing automation should afford you. So the marketing automation is just the tool to allow you, think of it that way. It doesn't make it, like, I have people and they say, we want to do marketing automation. That's crazy. Marketing automation it's a piece of software. It's a tool. It's like, that's like saying, I want to do the hammer. No, it's a tool, right? But you have to put this in place. The tool is just helping you to make it easier to run a campaign that includes the blog post, the download, and open and click through, the visit of the web page, the cart, the purchase. It's tying all those pieces together in one place to allow you to execute quickly, right? But what you're trying to do is understand the buyer's journey and understand the equation between the money that we put in to spend to get in front of these different people. How many people are actually of the persona of marketing may in this case? How many people have lead scores? And finally, can I start getting a predictable pattern and understand how many people are going to make it through? Okay, and that's a big kind of piece of that. So if we break it down a little bit further as kind of major concepts, there's the idea now of the campaign, and that there's a goal. So when I set out and I'm moving to marketing automation, I'm running programs, I'm running campaigns. Again, it's a collection of interactions I'm trying to make. It's going to be a series of emails, perhaps a landing page, a blog, digital advertising, different sets of tweets, etc. And I'm trying to now have a campaign goal where I'm setting up, and I want to measure again on this whole series of events. I'm trying to measure it. That idea is called a campaign in the marketing automation world, right? In digital marketing, that's a campaign. I'd say in marketing as a whole, that's a campaign. What happens is that email marketing platforms oftentimes have bastardized the word, and they use the word campaign to mean individual email message. Okay, so the word campaign gets kind of bandied about and gets very confusing. But in the world we're talking about, a campaign, for most marketers, a campaign is a collection of different channels you're going to use, different pieces of copy you're going to use, different creative you're going to use, different techniques you're going to use to be able to move people through this buyer's journey, through a series of events to see how much revenue you can generate, okay? So we use, again, to use the campaign and understand it, we're using personas like we talked about to be able to target and then identify of the people we're trying to target, how many look like, how high is the probability of our match rate between the people that we're looking for and we want to attract, and those people are actually getting attracted to us, okay? So a quick example, we work with American Payroll Association. They're looking at young professionals, and they're trying to generate new leads for people who are possibly could become members in the payroll field, okay? We're trying to get in front of people who don't know who APA is at all. They have no idea this association exists. It's not in their worldview. We're trying to get in front of them, and how do we pull them in? What can we do to attract them, to get them into this funnel? Okay, so this is now the how-to. Now we're a little bit at the tactics. We're at the tactics now, and we know what we're trying to do. We're trying to attract a group of millennials who look like likely candidates to be members of the American Payroll Association, and now we have to figure out what's going to be compelling enough to attract them and pull them into that funnel. Now what we've done is decided to do here is we built a series of content assets, right? Content assets is going to live in the marketing automation system to help pull these people in, okay? So one of the things we did is we built out a landing page. It's visual, it's beautiful, it's SEO optimized, the offer's clear, okay? And it has an all-important form on it, okay? We have a form, and we have now marketed this landing page by putting it out through social media, by doing ad buys, digital advertising, spend, etc., to again get in front of these anonymous people and pull them to a landing page. I didn't dump them at the organization's door. I pulled them to a landing page that's completely personalized just for the target audience that I'm looking for, okay? And so then I'm trying to see, great, number one, how many people got attracted to my landing page and got there, clicked on my banner ads, etc., followed my tweet, how many people got there, and then how many people got into my funnel at the very point of the first step by filling out the form. How many people entered now into my conversion funnel, okay? And I'm using the landing page and form to do that. Right there is a big concept for 2016, 2017 that we've gone through. Because organizations are like, we already have a website and they have pages there. Why would we need a landing page, okay? And the purpose of landing pages is to get people from anonymous into the top of the funnel and go from anonymous to a known user is what it's called, okay? So we're going to use that. Now this is fresh, and what? We didn't violate any sort of CAN-SPAM compliance laws because we didn't go buy email addresses. This is the legal way, the real legit way to develop new people into your email, into your email list. And I say that because email address is the equivalent of your driver's license, your social security number of the digital world, right? Because once I have the email address, this person has voluntarily given it to me. I can now enter into a relationship that's a one-to-one, far more personal, nurturing relationship using now email. This is now where email comes into the equation, okay? So we're going to use landing pages. Then, as we said, a little bit more depth on the form. We're going to ask about, we're going to call this the ask. We're going to use different form data, and we can ask anything we want to be able to start to do what? Identify, is this, in fact, the person who's filling this out, how much do they look like my persona that I'm trying to develop? How much are there? I'm looking for probability. And I'm asking questions that would give me some indication if that's the case, okay? That's why I'm using these forms. Do I want to ask always the same stuff? No, I'm always asking additional questions. Years of experience in payroll is a definite one, and topics of interest. I'm trying to crack the code to say, the person filling out this form, are they really in my crosshairs about who I'm looking for that's going to be my ideal member, right? And if they're not, then we want to discard them. But if they are, we want to study that group and make sure that, again, they finish our buyer's journey, right? Another little technique is you finish the landing page, you fill out the form, you get some sort of thank you page. It's one of the top opportunities for cross-sell, upsell is right here. It's like the equivalent of getting an e-commerce receipt. You're looking for it to make sure that the transaction occurred. It's a great way for further interaction, okay? So understanding this technique about a thank you page, thanks for your interest in the Understanding Your Pay ebook, and then they're going to be able to go ahead and say, you're scratching the surface with the ebook, check out the additional resources. So if this person has now filled out the form to get the ebook, and then they click on this link for additional resources, I just lead scored them. I just said you are one step closer to looking like, smelling like, that you're truly interested in being able to be a member of our organization. Okay, so those are kind of some fundamental pieces. Now here comes the email that has the downloadable link for this ebook. Okay, so the email with the download of the ebook is automatically sent. No human's doing that. Okay, the marketing automation platform itself is doing that. I get the email. Now I have the measure, and if they open it, and now if they click through it and they download the ebook, now I'm looking at, okay, they're getting the offer, and then I can look at the conversion, or sorry, I can look at the tracking to understand now the tactics. Now, did they actually do the desired action? So if they downloaded the ebook, lead score them again, give them another couple points. Now I'm going to put them into an automated workflow and start to nurture them. Now let the system do the work. Again, the human has designed this ahead of time, and I'm now pushing it through the funnel, and I'm have understanding there about what I'm going to do for if they took the right action, and also how do I get them back on that path, okay? Measuring success is my final step. I'm looking again at identifying what metrics. Look how many metrics I have now And ultimately I'd have, did they complete the buyer's journey that I want, and did I get that revenue? Okay. But because I'm now using it through a funnel, I'm using it through marketing automation, and all of this is bundled together, I don't have to go to 5 different places to pull it together. I walk into in the morning and I look at my marketing automation platform, and I've got all of it right there. And I'm now currently understanding, if I put out digital advertising, they went through the funnel, what did I get? Okay. Kind of wrapping that up, here's all the tools that are typically bundled into a marketing automation platform. So again, this is, again, changing my fundamentals. I'm using a series and variety of tools in order to use all these different kind of channels of content, et cetera, and kind of techniques internally in order to understand who is going to buy and how much do we have to spend in order for us to get people to buy. If you walked into most associations, most for-profits too, and said, what's your cost per lead? Many organizations cannot answer. We want to be at a point where we can answer. Your chief financial officer would be super happy if you could say that. For every $500 we spend, we can generate a new member, right? That's a magical equation. And the marketing automation platforms are trying to help you solve that. Moving on, a couple other kind of fundamental concepts that we had during the year is this idea of what's called the MarTech stack, that we're now talking about. We're moving away from talking about the big three of your email marketing system, association marketing system, and content management system. And we're starting to talk about a broader ecosystem that includes a marketing automation system. It might have some other peripherals, learning management system. You might have higher logic like community platforms or small world labs or things like that, and how this all fits together. Okay. And understanding now that we have the user experience flow of the buyer's journey, and then understanding that in today's world, the data, this people data, it's all still about, ultimately we want to study the contact, the person, understanding how that all fits together overall, and where the data needs to flow between systems, and that they must be integrated, right? Because ultimately we're trying to study this one person in every interaction touch point they've had, and this might be across, again, different platforms, and that's fine, but we ultimately want it to be stored in one place, or at least we can look at it where we can make sense of it. Again, looking at the marketing technology stack. So being able to start breaking up email automation from email marketing for all the different pieces, being able to split out emails also is a big kind of trend. So having product emails, so I'm trying to sell sell products, being able to create emails that do that exact thing and separate it out from, excuse me, from communications, being able to understand and tie in things like e-commerce. Being able to look again at the comprehensive approach of a user who's right there in the middle. So the user cares about the timing, the relevancy, and the buying behavior, right? The user cares about that. You send them the greatest email in the world and they get to your login page and they have to log in order to get to the e-commerce product section, and that becomes like a stopping point. Look, that's their experience and you've got to fix that. Right? So understanding the marketing technology stack needs now to be needs to be built around the user, because the user is not they're not understanding I'm moving between mobile app to website to email marketing to e-commerce. They don't really care. They're like, why is this so difficult? We've got to solve that kind of problem. The last kind of piece here that we really covered that I think was a fundamental newness is, again, in the for-profit world, there's been a ton of time spent on e-commerce. Like, that's the whole point, right? You build out these online presences because you're trying to sell products and services at a lower operational cost for the organization. And for whatever reason, in the association space, the e-commerce area has very much lagged behind. It's just been part and parcel to the association management system, and not a lot of really TLC has been given to it. But what happens now that we start getting the marketers driving the digital experience, and we start saying, look, the people we're now targeting are millennials, right? They are savvy, and they're not forgiving. They're not forgiving in being able to decide whether or not they want to work with us. So we've got to pump up we got to understand how the shopping cart with cart abandonment and e-commerce, these are all leading indicators. Because remember, that's the end of the buyer's journey. So if we don't have marketing automation tied in with the buying journey and seeing where it comes into the cart and seeing how they actually got the revenue, then we're going to have some problems. okay? So there's a whole great webinar, a couple series about e-commerce now and associations, and understanding that we've got to be able to push these things through all together. The big take-home message, I think, about the idea that these systems now have to be snapped together and be able to have data move between that to trigger different events is really based on this idea of JavaScript conversion codes, okay? That's a fundamental in digital marketing. JavaScript conversion codes, every marketing automation takes a JavaScript code and places it on your website, places it on your e-commerce site, right? That idea that there's different codes that are being dropped between these different websites that are actually sending out signals between each other about what the system should do is a fundamental concept. You have to really get that these things have to be able to be linked together now. So that if I get an email and then I go to your website and I go to the cart and I abandon the cart, that is getting, some message is getting triggered back over to the email system and sending out, let's say, another email to say, hey, you know what, come on back. That these types of things, Facebook to LinkedIn to learning management system to my blog to my content management system to my e-commerce, these things are all now need to be part of an ecosystem that's talking to each other, right, in order for us to do that well. And again, we're moving from anonymous users and how we track them. This final concept is one I think that really associations struggle with because they're like, oh, I don't know, I worry about the privacy of our members, et cetera. In the digital marketing world, this is what is understood is happening. Okay? If you use Amazon, this is what's happening. They're dropping a cookie on your machine, you're giving them your email address, and they know your IP address, and therefore they know, and they're starting to track and build a profile of you. Even before you've filled out a form and provided your email address, they're anonymously tracking you based on IP address, okay? So the whole idea is, again, with great power comes great responsibility. So you have to use that data, and that's where you can have a data governance rule. You can have ethics that you want to explain to your members how you'll utilize this information, things like that. But this is the methodology and the understood and known acceptance about how digital marketing, e-commerce works today. Is this idea that we're going to drop cookies and we're going to start tracking you, and we're building a profile ostensibly to better serve you. All right? So those are kind of the top topics that we covered this year. Really the call to action for all of this is to provide us feedback for everyone who participated on what topics you want to see coming up. More of the same, something different, etc. That's hugely helpful for us as we go into our planning phase for the summer. So we're not teachers, we don't take the summers off, but what we do is we do bring all this in, we do some analysis, and we come up with our whole program for the following year. So we're off now. We will take off July, August. Hopefully we see many of you at ASE's annual meeting up in Toronto this year. And we will be back in session for HighRoad U 2017 to 2018 starting in September. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we're delighted that you enjoy our programs.